Lots of people have questions. What do I need to know about the secondhand, pre-loved Kimberley camper? Shane from SEQ Campers, and we'll take you through this caravan right behind me on our pre-loved sales. What we do is we want to go through it, and these are the things that I find that I'm always running into, and also want to point out some of the deal breakers. We go through this from tip to tail, and this is my little tips on what I've spotted here and what I've seen on other vans that we've got in recently. Now at the front here, I sometimes see people, they have a 5 or 10-year-old van and they actually have the wrong hitch on here. They've upgraded to an electric brakes, but they've still got some manual hitch. So you see things going clunk clunk every time they step on the brakes, and it's as easy as changing the hitch, greasing the hitch, or some of the parts in between. So changing a hitch can be something that'll make that a lot better and make it a lot nicer to drive. The other one here is checking your trailer plug. Now, we are a big fan from back in the day of the 7-pin large round plug. We are not a fan of an adapter. If you have a different plug on your vehicle, we're always going to change this plug here to suit your vehicle, and that's going to give you more consistency with your lights, brakes, and overall it just stays in better, doesn't fall on the ground. Now, some of the hoses have had a bit of wear and tear or just sun damage. They'll be really stiff and hard to fit onto your vehicle. So changing these over is a big thing that we'll do on our pre-loved checks, or do it when we change that plug to suit a vehicle that you've come in with when you buy something secondhand. Don't use adapters. The hoses, if they're falling out or too flexible, all of a sudden you got halfway to your trip, your Anderson plug's not charging, you're not enjoying the holiday as much because you haven't had this set up as well or had the tips and tricks when we hooked up to the vehicle. Now, brakes are always a big one. We want to hear some noise. Now, hearing noise is a good part of it. Again, I'm going to always be checking this, and we're going to flush the brake fluid as part of our 50-point check when we do a service. But just checking, have a quick look inside there when you're looking at vehicles. Just see that there's some fluid in there. We're always using a .5 or a really good quality brake fluid, and that's nice and topped up when we're doing it in there on our one. A deal breaker for us is if someone has not installed a breakaway. So a breakaway is actually going to be the cable that pulls on the brakes. I'm going to test that, and I'm actually going to repair. If that's showing any damage in that cable, we've got that cable. We'll recrimp a new one for your van before it goes out. We love this arc jockey wheel right here, but if it ever is difficult to move, it's a big thing, greasing that, being able to pull that apart. Part of our thing is checking the jockey wheel, because if that becomes a hard job camping, all of a sudden you can cause damage hooking up, or it just becomes really difficult. And that's the most frustrating part, is when you're trying to get out or into a campsite. Other things that we're going to look for at the front here, the stone guard here on this one, we can do it up with a Raptor Black. We can actually respray it, or we can do it up with a Rhino Shine. So we're going to put a coating on there, and that's just going to tidy up some of the black where stone chips may have come. The other one is mud flaps. So a big fan changing out some mud flaps, especially if they've been damaged or ripped. It's just going to protect the underside of this van. Now, when I pop this open, I've got my firewood rack or luggage rack. So if you do have one of these on something that you're looking at buying, it's a great idea, but it does love to have some weight. So my camping mat, firewood in there, because it's quite a bit of pressure to give you some added lift in that. A big thing that we've done on a lot of pre-loved or people coming in for servicing is upgrading our solar or a DC-DC charger. So that was popular back in the day, but some of those DC-DC chargers weren't set up for lithium or didn't have that high voltage. They're always going to work a little bit, but they're never going to get you a full battery or right up to those high 13 point something voltage that you like. What people really love to see and do now is putting that extra Anderson plug in. So we've tapped into a new DC-DC charger, and what we've done is we've got an extra one for my solar blanket or my extra solar panel, and I can do it right there, and I can read it on that regulator. Some room in here, so tie downs, different things depending on your box. But we are going to check the batteries, which are usually located in the front. I'm gonna run the hot water, turn everything on, and watch my voltage, see if those batteries hold their voltage under a substantial amount of load. So I'll just pack this up. Adding a stone stomper or big rock tamer mud flaps will help protect this on those big off-road trips. That's something that we like to do. So we've got a stone stomper on this guy here where we can then put the mud flaps back, but we'll think about adding some new mud flaps here as part of that setup. Right, gas bottles are another one. You're looking at a 10-year-old van, that one might want to check here. Swap and go, so we have swap and go facilities up here at the Sunshine Coast where you can swap them out or fill them up if they are a good bottle. We've got the 2, 4, or 4.5 kilo bottles there. When you're buying a secondhand van, you want to know what's inside and how much it's being used. There's no odometer on this, but having a look at those swing arms underneath is a good indication of what they've been doing. Now, they quite often get a peppering of stones, so the paint might be off, but it is high tensile steel. So if I see those swing arms looking pretty average, I know they're still really good. But have a look at the back of the hub or the back of the wheel and check where that seal is. If that's sitting there looking fresh and clean, well, you know they've looked after the back of their hub or the back of their disc brake. With a secondhand van, a couple of things that I will always notice is if you've got a hatch out here, most likely it's a chemical toilet. It means I open this up, pull out the cassette, and that'll give me up to 35 uses. But that's ones or twos. So a lot of these ones that you'll see through SEQ, we've done the Nature's Head, the composting toilet, and that could give me up to 80 uses for a number 2, or it can give me the liquids that'll drain every 3 days, 2 or 3 days. Or pro tip, drain it before you go off-roading, corrugation, and just empty the liquid bottle on your toilet. Stairs here is an option. These are really clean and tidy. Now you can see some people will get a lot of peppering there, and we can do an extra mud flap in front of those stairs. But from the traditional pull them out and they hit the ground type stairs, these ones spring loaded and they feel good. Some people, I've seen them come in struggling with their stairs, and what you really want to do is get some spray in there, and maybe sometimes they'll have to be loosened or tightened, those bolts, to make that work properly. An adjustment there can make setting up every day so much easier, and something we will do and check and pick up here. One of the things here that we have, I really notice, is people say, Shane, I'm so glad you checked this unit. They've come in and seen it, and we've picked up different things like adjusting the height of the outside door for this kitchen if you're a taller fellow. Just little things like making sure a latch or a cupboard or something is working better, and a lot of the time it can just be an adjustment. So on our handover day, we spend a time with you, open and close everything on and off, and make sure that you're happy with it, and make sure that when you leave, we fix some of those minor things that we've found as we went through the unit. We try and get as much as we can when we set up, but some of those things on the day, the great thing about doing it here at the workshop is that we can do it and we can fix it on the spot and make it great. So this for our adventure is another one that we like to do at SEQ. What we have out here with the kitchen, slides, slides, slides. Now there are so many slides out there that you can use, and a lot of the newer slides are a thicker slide. You're putting in a fatter, longer, different slide, and they just don't fit right. So if you break a slide, you might not always be able to get the exact replacement, but on those slides, that will then make it quite tight, and sometimes you're just looking out for a tab that's bent. So on a camper trailer or any of the larger slides, just have a look at where that tab is, and if this tab is not bent or out of shape, or even sawn off or shaved down, because quite often that's from a lot of abuse or a lot of travel. Some people don't always know the slide won't go back in, I can't get it back in, and there are some really good tricks that we will do here, but the biggest one is just make sure the slide comes all the way out, click. Once it's locked out, then it'll go all the way back in. So some tricks like that. Now this one here is a great kitchen. Love the setup of it. We're gonna pull this out and open. And these ones are quite robust. But if we're not operating very well, what we're really gonna do here is it's got 2 finger biters, 2 little grabbers there, touch them in and go all the way in. But please know that if that's not going all the way in, there's a chance that that tab is not working when you try and lock it out. So there's a big tip there. Sometimes that kitchen just won't go back in and you will have to adjust the tab or one of those in there. Now with our sinks here, lots of people say, Shane, I really just can't make this drain work or this sink work. Really good tip. Just make sure they will be cut off and trimmed, but that one you can actually screw a hose fitting on. So any typical garden hose fitting that fits on your tap at the outside of your house will screw onto there and you can run a hose back away from your kitchen. So really good one there. Sink plugs, really good that we try and give you a few ideas here. We're gonna check some magnets. So in the magnet curtains, magnets back here, some of that stuff can save you heaps of trouble if you check it when you're buying a secondhand van. We love to run the water through here. Anything 5 years old might be a need for a water filter. I constantly get people saying, Shane, my cold water tap is noisy. It is so noisy, it's waking up the neighbors. I do not want to brush my teeth because I don't want to disturb other people. Now that's an easy fix that we can do here. Now sometimes it is something in the pump itself, but most of the time it's resistance. Resistance through the water filter is what's causing that cold water tap to be really noisy. There's some good working things that we can do to flush out the filter, move the filter location, or change and check the pump. So those are things that we look out for, the noise of the water pump when we're doing our pre-checks. We're a big fan of the water system and something like this as simple as checking that it's not leaking. Some people will change this fitting out and constantly have leaks, but having the right fitting in there makes it a lot better. We've got water coming in and out, and sometimes using a new modern shower head on there can make all the difference in getting your hot water, just feeling like it lasts longer, a nicer shower outside. So we've got a few options that we look at through testing the VisiFlow. Anytime I've done some water upgrades, I'm actually gonna then connect mains water to it. And by running mains water through the whole system, I know I'm upping the pressure. Really easy way to check for leaks through the water system by connecting mains. Most caravans for this have the back corner allocated to our diesel hot water system. If you're ever doing some checks on the hot water, please get them to run the hot water for you. One of those things about that is just that you're gonna see how much smoke comes out the back of the muffler. Now, a little bit of smoke is okay. It's just some carbon or fuel buildup that's trying to burn off. But it just means it's starting, it's working, and we have a diesel fuel system treatment that we can do up here, and running that through will just make it run more efficiently and also just gives you more longevity through your diesel hot water. Your pro tip, if your diesel hot water heater or cooktop is not working, it most likely is just 2 things. It doesn't have fuel, or there's an airlock in fuel, or it doesn't have 12 volt. There's not enough power. So that would be an indication that the batteries are not putting out that power or holding above 12 volt. So when I run the hot water, I right away am looking at the voltage on the battery monitor just to see how it holds up when I hit that diesel glow plug, ready to go. We're back here in the back of the unit, and this is where I have access to my fuses, my power, and generally my battery charger will be back here. Now, something great about the EnerDrive battery chargers is I can use them as a jump starter. So there's a program setting in there that will jump start the batteries. Other chargers don't always have a lithium profile, so quite often you'll buy a van, people have put the lithium batteries in there, but the voltage on those chargers does not match the battery itself. So you might not always be getting as much charge or as much life as you want out of it. So checking the charger when you're at site, you're looking to buy something, go ahead, plug it in, see the charger light up, and see what it's telling you there. Great way to have a look and check when you're looking to purchase your secondhand Kimberley camper. There's a few things that I'll look for inside the dashboard of the Kimberley camper when I am looking to buy something pre-loved. This would be checks that we would do right away when we get in here. So probably the first one I'm looking at is that I've got lights under the bench. As I get more than 10 years older, sometimes this light will get pinched up here in the corner, or maybe some older ones don't have much light at all, and that's a great one to try and get upgraded because it makes everything really easy to use down here. Here's a pro tip. If you've got a camper and it's got a microwave in it, just open the door and just give it a little bit of a pull on the inside there. Just see that it's fitting nicely and it is secured down. Now that could be as easy as tightening a bolt or adding a bit more foam to the bracket to make sure it's in there nice and snug. And this is a great tip to do before a trip as well. Off-road corrugation, we are running hot. This guy is something that can move around. So please check it when you are traveling as well as before your sail. Now we have a couple extra power points in there. I really like to turn on the water pumps. So I've got 2 water pumps there. They're gonna make some noise. I'll turn on the water in the sink and turn on the hot water. Once I've turned them off at the tap, by leaving these 2 guys on, I can listen out for any water leaks just by having them on and knowing that my water is holding pressure through those lines. That's a really good one through there. Also the noise as well. Now we've got our diesel cooktop. Again, if you have time and the people are okay, turning that on is great. Just so I'm seeing 1 click, I see the light up. So 1, 2, 3. Didn't want to light up. So what have I isolated, or what do I need to do on this guy to make sure that that's working? So we have that. If I get flashing lights on there, there is a way to reset that. But right now we want to check that and see what's going on with the communication in my diesel cooktop. Something just to be aware of, at least when you are looking to buy. Now on that touch screen there, I can just touch a few buttons. I might not have to understand it, but as long as I know I can touch and it's moving through some screens, some power, water, and whatever is on there, it's just good idea. If you ever see some of the older touch screens, they might not show much information, and every time you touch them, it doesn't seem to do much. A modern screen is a great upgrade. Understanding your power is a great thing to do, but it's good just to have a look and feel like you see it working before you pick up something pre-loved out there. We've got an inverter in here. We've got some nice cupboards. Again, cupboards will always move, can always be adjusted. I would open up the fridge and just make a look here. One of the things that I would do, just making sure the fridge or freezer door is intact, so it hasn't fallen or broken out there. Now, wear and tear, cans of drink in there, that's okay, can all look up and look good, but it's always great to open up the fridge and see that. You might even get a light that shows up in there, but the freezer door is my #1 tip when I'm looking at buying something pre-loved.